Hey guys, I'm Josh from Layzee Acres. Thank you for tuning in. We are saving the world here, one trailer at a time. Today we're going to do something a little different. This is an orientation or a walkthrough or a how to use video. And we're going to start with the residence park style. This is going to be boring for people who know how to use trailers, but maybe a nice little refresher for you. The idea is maybe you've bought a residence at Layzee Acres or elsewhere. You want to figure out how to use it before you come for your walkthrough. You want to revisit this, a year or two later. You forgot where that was or how this works. So that's kind of the idea here. Like I said, it might be a little repetitive, but we're going to get through it. We'll start on the outside, which is how a typical walkthrough would start. Like I said, this is a park style trailer, so it should be a little bit simpler than like a travel trailer or a fifth wheeler or something. So it should be fairly easy for us to get through, but we'll do what we can here. So first things first is the front of the trailer. It is this type of trailer is going to be plugged in at all times, which you'll do, but you should still have a battery on board. And the reason is you have a lot of 12-volt appliances. Your lights are 12 volts, your slides are 12 volts. You really should have a battery going and hooked up properly all the time. Pretty straightforward. Red is positive, black is negative. If for some reason those leads touch each other, the trailer will short out and there'll be fuses you have to replace on the side. So don't let that happen. If you're going to disconnect the battery, you always disconnect the negative lead. You don't leave the positive lead just dangling around. You would just disconnect the negative lead. For the winter, you would bring this battery inside the house somewhere. It doesn't have to be a room temperature, but you don't want to be cold, and you don't want to store it on a concrete floor. If you're going to put it in the garage or something, make sure there's a piece of wood in between the concrete and the battery itself. But yeah, so make sure you have a battery hooked up. I know you're plugged in, but make sure you have a battery hooked up when you're operating the trailer. When it comes from Layzee Acres, at least, this battery will have a casing around it, a battery box, so that'll be there, but this is kind of just for today, demonstration purposes. You're good to go there. Now to the propane. Will come standard on these residences. There's 30 pound propane tanks. I've grabbed some used tanks off a used trailer today that actually have propane that we're going to hook up. But just so you kind of see how this works, basically there's a collar that lifts up like so. You thread this out, grab your tank. These aren't light, so if you're anyways, just use your knees, that kind of thing. And then this collar comes up, fits through the tank like that. I always get both propane tanks on before I get into this here. Oh, I do want to introduce our cameraman, Brandon Hannemeyer, is holding this down for us. He's going to be learning some stuff today as well, and he's going to kind of keep me straight if I forget to talk about something. So
might even teach Josh something.
Might even teach Josh something. A little unlikely, but that's okay. But no, so feel free to chime in, Brian, if there's something that you want me to talk about. So these are a QEC valve, so they thread on just like you would screw in a screw or whatever, righty tighty, lefty loosey, that kind of thing. So they're just gonna fit on and just hand tight. You don't have to get too crazy here. Just tighten those up, one on either side. Okay, and then to open, you just open the gas valve. Now, if you just fire the gas valve open, there's actually a chance there's like a down pressure safety. So if you just fire the gas valve open, there's a chance that could shut. So just take your time when you're doing this. Don't just rip it right open. So slowly open that. Okay. I like to leave both tanks open. Now this is gonna be hard for the camera to see, but wherever this switch is the tank it's drawing off of. Okay. So when this tank goes empty, all right, so this tank goes empty, it's actually going to automatically start drawing off the other tank. Okay, that's what we call an automatic changeover. But there's a piece of glass in here, and like I said, the camera's not going to pick up on it. But if this tank's empty, there's a red line that shows up here where this glass is. That lets you know this tank's empty and it's now running off of this tank. So what you can do, so this tank's gone empty now. We can flip this over to this side. This piece of glass will go clear, and then after you flip this over, you can leave this tank on. You can take this tank off and go get it filled in, at a fuel station. Vice versa. So this tank goes empty, it's automatically going to start drawing off of this tank. You'll know it's empty because this glass here will turn red. You flip it over, you could then take this tank off and go get it filled at a fuel station then. If you leave this valve pointing down, all right, it's going to draw off of both tanks, and you're just going to run out of propane. So not ideal, but you can do it in the middle if you want to run both tanks. I can't think of a reason why you do that, but maybe you do. But just have it pointing whichever way you want. And then a quick note: the gas valves are supposed to be facing the trailer. This isn't meant to go down the road, but you wouldn't want to have the gas valves facing where you're going. You want to have them facing the trailer itself. And then just for ease of access, some of these trailers will have like a door right here, all right, that you kind of undo, just to give you some nice access there, okay? Now, on the off chance you do want to pull this down the road, these do not tow very well at all for your average consumer. But if you do, there's kind of 4 things that make you safe, all right? You need to have this this coupler locked on the ball, like so, and put a pin through here. So that's one thing to make you safe. Then you have a breakaway cable. All right, let's be honest, you're gonna have someone pull this to the site for you, but in case you do it, this has to hook up to the trailer. So the idea here, this is a breakaway cable. If the trailer comes off the truck for catastrophic reasons, this pulls a pin back here that locks on your brakes. So the trailer doesn't follow you down the road. So that gets hooked up to the trailer with a separate link. I like to kind of run this through the pin right here, whatever. And then you have chains. Chains right here, they need to be crisscross underneath. So if the chain's on this side, you hook it up on that side of the truck, and then vice versa on this side. So that if the trailer comes off, it's actually going to cradle in the chains. I've seen this happen, so that's important. And then you got yourself a 7-way wire. So that's 4 things. So this has to plug into the truck, all right, like so. That gives you lights and brakes in the trailer. So 4 things: you have lights with the cable, you got a breakaway cable, you've got a pin, and then you've got chains. Anything else to talk about in the front here, Brendan?
No, you covered it all.
Good. These slides on these residences are hydraulic slides. So you push one button inside and they're all going to come out simultaneously. Typically what happens is whatever slide has the least amount of resistance will go first. So you'll kind of see them start all together, but the small slide would typically go first, which is another reason why it's important to have a 12-volt battery on, especially when you're opening and closing, because hydraulic slides, they demand a lot of power, and having a battery in there would definitely help with that. When you for the summer, you're going to leave your slides open typically all year long, and but when you close it for the winter, because you need to close it for the winter, you need to make sure you sweep off the slides so there's no debris in between the slide out flange and the wall of the trailer, because then it won't seal, right? So somebody needs to get up there, sweep off the slides, make sure there's nothing kind of blocking that sealing properly, okay? Good as time as any to mention, check your seals every 90 days. Brendan and I did a video of that a few months ago, how to actually do that. Maybe Kirsty, can you put that in the link down below so they can link to that. And then another topic, we did a video on winterizing as well, so maybe put that link down below too. So if someone wants to watch how to do a detailed winterization of the trailer, they can do that. But we've done those videos already. So roof maintenance every 90 days and winterize your trailer for the winter. But slides specifically, make sure they're swept off and clean before you close the slide. Coming down this side here.
Do we comment about taking the tongue off this thing?
Yeah, that's a great point, Brendan. That's a great point. So this is not something that your typical customer would be able to do, but if you need to have some more space here on the front of the site, okay, this tongue here is actually removable. So when the trailer's leveled, you'd have your blocks and stuff like that leveled underneath the trailer. Typically, we do that for the customer, but the trailer's been leveled at this point. You're sitting on blocks. There's a bunch of bolts here. I think they're 15, 16. It doesn't matter, but you would take those out, okay, and the tongue comes off and gets shoved down underneath the trailer. Now the problem with that is you have to take the propane tanks off first, right? And you have to remove your battery. So maybe it's worth more trouble than it is, but you can get extra 3 feet of coverage here. Now there's certain models that these tongues are not removable on, there's not really travel trailers, that will do that. And the double lofts by residents, and I assume by Jayco, this tongue will not be removable. But if you have the tongue off underneath, you can just bring the propane tanks down here, maybe around the side, but you still gotta make sure you have a battery hooked up on the regular basis there. Good. You think that's okay, Brennan?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So hookups and stuff like that are going to be in different locations for each floor plan you got. This is a 40 FKSS, but so like the hookups themselves will be in different spots, but they'll all be labeled. So you're at a site, okay? You're hooked up with hydro. You're hooked up with water. The water's going to hook with a hose, right? You're going to bring that into here to your city water connection. All right. Now, when you turn the water on to post, you have water at here, and then you'll have water at the taps inside. The reason I mention that is because whatever pressure you have in that hose, you're going to have pressure on the trailer. Most customers get what's called a water pressure regulator, probably about 20, 30 bucks, and it's a little piece that goes in between the hose and the trailer, and just make sure the pressure of the water doesn't get above 60 psi or whatever it's rated for. So that's a good thing to buy. You should buy a water pressure regulator to go in between the hose and the trailer itself. This is separate from the freshwater tank, so we're going to get to the freshwater tank later. This is specifically for customers, and almost in every situation when you're in a park style, you have water at the site and you're going to hook up. You should use like a potable, like a white water hose that's meant to have fresh water go through it, but you're just going to bring that in here, thread this on, this cap comes out, hose fits in, and you just thread this kind of backwards there. Then we have an outside shower here. This is really straightforward. You have hot and cold coming out of there. The big thing with outside showers is that people forget to winterize them, so don't forget to winterize your outside shower. This is a special key here. No, I got it. All right. So hot and cold. You see this one already has antifreeze through it, but after you've used it for the year, even if you haven't used a shower that year, you got to make sure you winterize your outside shower, and that means running antifreeze through the hot and cold side of that. Other than that, pretty straightforward thing. Now, we're going to talk about the sewer, so we'll talk about this black water here in a second. Now, down below here, when you're set up at a park or a campground there, most times you have like a hard pipe right to the ground itself, okay? And people just think, yeah, I'll leave my sewer open all the time. I'm plumbed right in. No. What you can do is you can leave your gray water open, which is marked here with a gray handle, okay? You can leave that open, and the gray water, just be clear, is your sinks and your shower. You can leave that open, but it's imperative that you leave your black water closed, okay? If you leave the black water open, all the liquids are going to run out, and the solids are going to start to build up on the bottom of the tank and eventually build up to the toilet. So always leave your black water closed, even if you have sewer. I know it seems silly, right? But leave your black water closed. Gray water opens fine. As you're having a shower, water's running out, easy peasy, right? But when you go to drain your black water tank, you have to close your gray water, like that, and then open your black water. Okay? Imagine there's a hose here hooked up to the ground, or a hard pipe hooked up to the ground here to the sewer. Now what's going to happen is all the black water is going to flow out all at once, and there's enough pressure there to properly drain that. But if you leave your gray water valve open, so at this point you have both open, there's a chance black water could shoot back up the gray water. So only one open at a time, okay? You're always going to leave your gray water open, leave your black water closed until you go to drain your black water. You're going to close your gray water first, open your black water, it's going to spray it all at once, you're good to go. Now, this brand of Park Style has a black water flush kit. So, as you've opened the black water, you've closed your gray, you can take off your city water hose, hook it up to your tank flush valve, which is labeled right here. Turn the water on again, and there's a hose that runs up and then down to your black water tank and sprays down the inside of your tank. Black water valve has to be open to hook this up, okay? It's a big issue if you hook this up with water, okay, and you don't have your black water open. So make sure your black water valve is open before you hook this up. Run it for 2-3 minutes, spraying the inside of that tank there for you. Shut the water off, close the black water, open up the gray, and you're cooking with gas again, okay? So that's pretty straightforward there. Some people get like a little clear fitting to go in between the PVC pipe and the trailer, so that when the water starts coming out clean, then you know your tank's clean, okay? But the key is here, you only turn the water on to this when the black water's open, okay? Does that seem clear, Brendan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have storage here. We don't need to talk about that. It's not a sales video. Coming on the back side here, we have cable. All right, so if you have cable at the site, not that common anymore, but if you have cable at the site, open this up, thread this into here. This is not by itself a satellite hookup. So this is a cable hookup. Satellite will be a little different. We'll maybe talk about that in the inside. Different models will have their hydro hookup in different locations. I find on most of the residences though, it's right here at the back, built into the frame like this. So you can see I've got a very small cord, 15 amp service. These residences though are 50 amp service. So the question comes up all the time, can I hook my 50 amp trailer up to a 30 amp site? And the answer is yes. There's an adapter, which is what I've got here. Okay, so this is adapting down to 30 amps. Okay, then I have this other small adapter that's adapting down to 15 amps. What's the difference? So 50 amps gives you enough juice to run 2 ACs. Most residences have 1 AC, some will have 2. So if you have 2 ACs to run them at the same time, you have to run 50 amps. 30 amps is enough power to run 1 AC. So most residences, travel trailers will have 1 AC. So if you're on 30 amps at your site, you can run 1 AC at a time. If you're the very, very off chance you don't have 30 amps or 50, you have 15 amps, you won't be able to run your AC. It won't be enough juice to run an AC. Okay? So 50 amp service, you're okay to run 2 ACs. 30 amp service, you can run 1 AC. 15 amp service, no AC. Okay? If you're on 15 amps though, like I am today, you can run everything else except for an AC. Yeah, and this is twists. Okay, so you got to push the cord in, twist it to your right, and then that gives you, your juice kind of thing. But I don't think you'd probably just leave this plugged in all the time. I can't see a reason. I guess maybe in the winter you'd unplug the trailer so there's no power in there. But anyways, that's kind of how that works. That sounds good, Brendan?
Yep.
Okay. Coming down the door side now. Like I said, this kind of stuff will be in different locations. This particular one, the furnace is right here. Okay. Quick note: can't build an attic room where the furnace is. Right? Like you can't have a sealed room around the furnace vent because you're going to be breathing carbon monoxide. This is a freshwater fill. So this is on the off chance that you don't have water at the site. Let's say you're bringing in jugs and you're filling up your tank. On the off chance you're doing that, most people would do hooked up, which is where the city water connection is over there. But if you're filling up your freshwater tank, you do that right here. All right, this valve here comes off. You're dumping water in. You're filling water in somehow. When the tank is full, this splashes back out at you. Okay. This does have a water pump on it, so it'll pump water from the freshwater tank to the trailer. But like I said, if you're hooked up to water, you don't got to worry about that because whatever pressure you have with the trailer, pressure you have with the taps. But you can use the water to winterize. If you want to check that winterizing video, you can do that. On the off chance you're using the freshwater tank, there will be a freshwater drain down here. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure that gets emptied when you go to winterize, or if the water's been sitting there too long. These style steps are pretty straightforward, flipping in and out. Some models will have like a clip-on style step, but at the end of the day, I don't think it matters too much on a park style because you're usually going to be installing some kind of a deck here at some point. But if you're using these stairs, they just fold in pretty easy. Okay. If you're using them a lot, you should lubricate them. You can hit them with like a Teflon spray and through there. Pretty straightforward. Lend a hand grab handle to put that away. You lift it over to the side. Outside receptacle. This is attached to a GFI on the inside. So if this isn't working, good chance it's because the GFI inside the trailer is kicked already. So just a quick note. Larger water heater. It's a 12-gallon gas electric. This door comes off. Okay. Sometimes the door will just fold down, but this particular one folds off. This has an anode rod. Okay. The anode rod acts as your plug. So when you take this rod out, the water will fall out of the tank itself. You have to imagine this is, you see the water heater, but there's a big bladder in behind that's actually holding the water. Okay. So when you go to winterize, you'll take this out. You'll see this kind of looks all ratty. You should replace it every year. It's a sacrificial anode rod, so instead of the hard water breaking down the tank, the hard water is going to break this down. Okay. Suburban has an anode rod. Atwood water heaters are different. They just have a plastic plug. But Suburban water heater, anode rod, should replace it every year, maybe every 2 years. Now, on the Suburban water heaters, there's also a safety switch down here for your electric side of the water heater. If you're using the electric side of the water heater, you have to have that turned on. and then you can flip it on and off from the inside, which we're going to get to. But this is a safety switch so that you know, in the winter when the trailer's winterize, there's no water in the tank. You flip this off, and then the water heater doesn't get kicked on by accident. So there's 2 switches for the electric side of the water heater. So you're going to leave this on for the season, and then you flip it on and off from the inside. But for the winter, you come out here and shut this off. Other than that, you don't touch this. You know, sometimes you get like insects and stuff like that that build up the nests in here. If you're not a gas technician, though, don't touch it. That's really it. Don't touch this either. It's a water pressure regulator. Don't plug this. This is very dangerous if you start messing around with this. So just leave that alone. Really, just for winterizing, you're draining the tank and then flipping off this switch here. Awesome. Well, let's head inside and we'll do the inside stuff. Right on. So we're gonna do some inside stuff, but before we do that, we have the awning. So the button for the awning is, and give you different places depending on the floor plan you end up getting, but it's always on this panel here. So we're just gonna push awning extend. Now the awning is gonna come out. They typically come out about 8 feet from the side of the trailer. You can't really overextend it. It's not like you're gonna break the awning by going out too far, but what you do is you keep going out until the additional valance, which we're going to see here in a second, hangs down at 90 degrees. So there. So see how that little valance there is hanging down? That's as far as the awning's supposed to go. What will start happening is if you overextend it, it's going to actually start running up or rolling up backwards, which, you know, is not the end of the world, but it's a thing. Now, if you want to create pitch, like one side or the other, you grab this knob right here, or this arm right here, and just pull down. And we're just going to create a little bit of pitch, you know, this side or that side. It's on both sides there, but you know, pretty straightforward. Then this is going to kind of push back up for when you retract the awning back in. There is LED lights in the awning, and that will be one of these switches in here. You can just shut those on or off. And this kind of goes back in the opposite way. Right on. Come on inside, and we'll do some inside stuff. Right on. So thanks for coming in here. We're gonna do our inside stuff. Should actually go a little faster from here. But first things first, you got your safety stuff. So as you walk in the main door or the secondary door, you're gonna have a fire extinguisher. That's for putting out fires. If you're not familiar with that. Then we have a detector of some kind. So there's gonna be a propane detector. And that'll be near the floor here somewhere. Always in different locations. Where do you think it is, Brandon? Right here. So propane sinks, okay? So this guy right here is down near the floor. This is CO and propane on this brand. So CO being carbon monoxide. This is hardwired into the trailer though. So if you have like a power outage, and you don't have hydro, and you're running just off your battery, when your battery gets low eventually after a day or two, this will start to beep once every 30 seconds. It's not an alarm, it's a low voltage alarm. So it's letting you know you're running out of power, and this can no longer detect propane. Also, if you're cleaning with like some different chemicals, like, I don't know, funny kind of fancy stuff, whatever, I've seen that set this off as well. So it may not necessarily be a propane leak or a carbon monoxide leak. It may just be what you've been doing in that vicinity. But that's what that guy looks like down there. You know, keep an eye on it, test it every, you know, maybe 6 months or whatever, right? Whatever the fire department says. And then we also have a smoke alarm, and that's up in the ceiling. That's that guy right there, and that has its own 9-volt battery. You should change that every year and test that, you know, twice a year, I guess. But that's has its own battery, so it's not plumbed in to the 12 volts of the trailer. The rest of the stuff here, I guess we'll do the kitchen stuff. Before you go to light your water heater or your furnace, something like that, you should always light your burners first. So when we were out there, we turned the propane on. Okay, we're going to turn this to light, and if I listen carefully, I can hear the propane coming. I'm turning this to light, and I'm holding this down. Then there's a little switch here to light it. Okay. Now I lit this before we started this video just to get prepared. Sometimes if you haven't used the trailer in a few weeks or over the winter kind of thing, there'll be air in the lines. So that's why you always light your burners first. Because if you just go try to light your furnace or whatever, it may not be propane there yet. So you always light your burners first, and then you try to light something else. Then our oven here, okay, you have to turn this to light right here, okay. Hold this in, and then you take a lighter, and there's a pilot light. It's about 3/4 of the way back on your right hand side. That's a little bit of a pain in the butt. You still have to get down there to light that. Yeah. So that's still a little pain in the butt to do that on this one. Some of the new ones, other ones there, they have like you hold this to pilot and you have a sparker, but this one you still need a lighter to do. Awesome. Microwave's pretty straightforward. If you don't know how to use a microwave, shouldn't be able to use a trailer. Our fridge is also pretty straightforward. It's just a residential fridge on these park style trailers. So you'll be able to open it up. You'll have packing and stuff like that to get rid of, and then there'll be a temperature control. On this one, it's way back here, but you can kind of control what temperature you want to have that set at. But you just have to kind of play around with that. We also have a fireplace in a lot of these residences. So this one is right through here. There will be a remote that comes with it, so you can do the same things with the remote. But you have an on-off. You have different lights. You have like a temperature kind of thing, or that's actually just controlling the flame still. This is the temperature right here. So right now, I don't know if you got an angle there, Brendan, but you got 78 degrees. You can just keep hitting this, going up, and then eventually it'll start going down. Up to 41, 42. So that's how you can actually control the temperature there, and then on off. Okay. You do have a TV antenna on this guy, which is controlled right from here. There's an on-off button there. All right. So if you turn that on, it's boosting the signal on the antenna, and then this is the straight cable outlet from the outside we saw. Okay. So the one with the button on it is the TV antenna. This is the straight cable from where you have the park cable on the outside. We do have a central vac system here. Okay. So, you guys, my wife, I don't vacuum. Just an on-off kind of switch there. There's a hose and a set of accessories that you can clip into this hole here, and then away you go, kind of thing.
Where does the dirt go?
It goes in behind, Brandon. How do you empty though is probably what you're asking me. Right there. So there's a bag right in through there, all right, and you're gonna need to keep on emptying this as you go. Okay. That was a little bit on the fly, buddy, but that going on okay?
Yeah. Okay. Didn't know if it was magic.
Yeah, just goes into the atmosphere. All right. Come on over here. We have our control panel. So these are just a bunch of switches that are labeled. So if you get confused, just read the label. But you have in and out for your slide out controls. So I mentioned these are hydraulic slides on this. So it's one switch for all 3 slides or 4 slides, whatever you got. So in or out. Now when you're all the way out, I don't know if you can hear this on the camera or not, but when you go all the way out, you hear how it kind of throats down like that? That means the slide's out. In or out for the awning, we talked about that. Inside lights, pretty straightforward. Porch light, that'd be your awning style light. Water pump. So this is if you're using the freshwater tank on the trailer. So the other one you mentioned on the outside, you fill up. If you're using that, you turn that on. It's going to pump water from the tank to all your taps. This is also where you can winterize your trailer from. So when you go back to that winterizing video, if you want to do that yourself, that's the water pump switch to winterize. And then gas electric for the water heater. So if you want to run on gas, flip it on gas. Okay. If you want to run on electric, flip it on electric. The dangerous thing with electric is if you have if your tank is empty, the water tank itself, that bladder in behind, if that's empty, and you flip it on electric, you'll burn out your element very, very quickly. So make sure you have water in the tank before you flip on the electric water heater there. And the easiest way to do that is going back to that winterization video, make sure you have the bypass in the right position, and then you have water coming out of the hot water side of the tap. If there's air coming out of the tap, the water heater is still filling up. So you want to make sure the water is out through the hot side of the tap and the tank is full before you try to light on electric. Where else would I go with that there? If you try to light your water heater right away and you haven't lit your burners first, it's probably not going to light. It's probably going to show up as a DSI fault. So that right there, that light there says DSI fault, so direct spark ignition fault. So if that light stays on, okay, after you try to light it, that means you don't have gas, or there's not gas there. Okay, so see that went out for me right now. That's trying to light right now. So I don't know if you can hear that or not. Probably not. But the water heater just lit. But if that light comes back on, that means it's failed to light, and you'll turn it back off, turn it back on again. And then this right here is your monitor panel. You can see how full your battery is. So if you push battery, it'll read 4 lights, so full, fresh water, empty, because we don't have any water in the tank, black water, gray water. Now on different floor plans, you may have 1 gray water, you may have 2 gray waters, you may have 2 black waters. Depends on the floor plan. So you have to kind of key that specific to your specific trailer there. But one thing I can guarantee you is that the black water does not read true. So you'll just empty the tank, you'll come back in here, check your black water, it'll read 2/3 full. Literally because there's crap on the sensor. So there's some kind of debris on the sensor that will give you a fake reading. So just don't trust the black water. You can trust the battery, you can trust the gray water, the fresh water, but you can't trust the black water. It'll give you crappy, bad readings. Then your thermostat's right here. Pretty straightforward stuff. However you have, the temperature here is where you're going to be keeping the temperature of the trailer. So 72 degrees, 75 degrees, whatever you want to do. If we're going to turn on the furnace, we go to heat. Okay, turn up the temperature. We can hear the furnace there. The fan will run for about 10-15 seconds, and then it'll try to light. Again, if you haven't lit anything in a long time, it tries to light, it may not be propane there yet, so always let your burners first. So that's pretty straightforward for the furnace. After I shut the furnace off, even though the flame goes out, the fan will continue to run for about 2 minutes afterwards, just to blow out any excess heat. Then over on our left, we have fan or cool. So the fan is referring to the fan on the AC. So I flip that to fan, and then I have high or low on my fan over here. Okay, that is not the compressor or the actual AC component working yet. That's just the fan. If I want to cool the trailer down, I'll go all the way over to the left to cool, and then I'll adjust my temperature. We're above 70 degrees right now. Or sorry, below 70 degrees right now in the trailer. So that'll take a second there. Awesome, but that's pretty straightforward. You don't have to worry about lighting anything, it's all electric. So you just go, if you want to have it on cool, go to cool. If you want to go heat, go to heat. And if you just want to have a fan running, you can go to just fan there. Awesome. Probably some stuff to talk about in the washroom here. So remember on the outside I said that receptacle there is attached to a GFI. Typically it's attached to the GFI that's in the washer. It'll change in every floor plan. But if that's not working, you're going to be able to come inside and trip your GFI receptacle. So what's happened there is maybe you've had something plugged in, it got wet, kicked the breaker so you didn't electrocute yourself. So, but the actual resettable part of that is right here. Alright, that's how you reset that. So if it's tripped, there'll be like a little orange light there letting you know you don't have power. To reset it, just push it back in. Okay, pretty straightforward. You do have a on and off here for the fan. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward too. With the toilet, there's no tank on these toilets, so there's nothing keeping the there's no like S-trap, so there's nothing keeping the stink from the tank not come up to the trailer. So the only odor trap is if you leave water in the bowl. So you want to leave a couple inches in the bowl there, keeping the stink down and the trailer smelling nice. If you just leave it bare like this with no water, the stink is going to come up from the tank, up from the pipe. So always leave a little bit of water in the toilet bowl itself. Shower's pretty straightforward. hot and cold kind of thing. There is like a shut off on the shower head itself though. So if you have the water where you want temperature wise, you can shut it off here, all right? Then you can lather up, okay? And then turn it back on to save some water because you only have so much hot water. It's a 12-gallon tank, which is typically like an 8-minute shower or so. But if you want to conserve water for someone else coming in, you can do that with the shower head itself. Come on through the washroom here, Brandon. This is your breakers and your fuses. All right, so all your electrical kind of comes in through here. All right, these are all labeled. So if your washing machine's not working, your one light's not working, come here, try to figure this out. This is your first line of attack for electrical issues. Fuses, that refers to 12-volt stuff. So your lights, your water pump, your furnace, that kind of thing. If a fuse is blown, though, there's a little red light right beside it that will light up, letting you know that that particular fuse is blown. So that should be pretty straightforward. Then for a breaker, if a breaker's kicked, it will kind of look like that. Okay, so just come back here, check that if you have electrical issues. You know, if you have questions, you would just call us or whatever. But that's where all your kind of electrical stuff comes together. Remember, the cord itself was at the back of the trailer, so in most cases, this box here is going to be near the back of the trailer somewhere. Awesome. Okay. Anything else we should discuss inside, Brandon? Can you think?
I don't think so. Just where you can hook a TV up, maybe? In here?
Yeah. So usually there'll be like a secondary TV location. So that's this guy right here. Now that booster switch we talked about at the main TV also controls this. Okay, so whatever you're doing over there is going to control your secondary TV. All right, let's walk outside here. I think we're coming to an end of the great orientation, though.
Washer dryer prep?
Yeah, that's a good call. These will have washer dryer prep on them. In most cases, the key with this is even if you're not using the washer dryer, you make sure you winterize these set of fittings here because there's still going to be water at the actual end of that. So even if you're just using this for storage, make sure you winterize those. They are just prepped like a 110 washer dryer, so not like the big 50 amp or 30 amp kind of plugs. So like an apartment size. You can do a combo in here, you can do a stackable in here, but what fits is going to depend on the floor plan you actually get. Cool. I think that's it. If you guys appreciate it, we're trying to put this out for you guys to make this easier to operate your trailer later. If you appreciate that, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're looking at another brand here at Layzee Acres, we're going to be putting out these videos for that brand too, so kind of look for that in the future. Yeah, have yourself a good day.